Family get-togethers, one of Ernestine Anreg's favorite things. Everyone talking, laughing, and living. But Ernestine isn't here with her family because this is where she's been for almost 20 years, and no one knows why.
It does appear that someone went there with the intent to kill her.
Halloween night, 1995. Ernestine, living with her son on 15th and Cypress in Rogers after her divorce, passes out candy with her daughter and granddaughter. They leave, but Ernestine stays behind. A short time later, Ernestine's boyfriend, Bill Ochoa, calls her family and police, saying he found her stabbed to death on the kitchen floor.
How could this happen? And this is the kind of thing that happens in other cities or other places and to other people.
Police say the door was ajar, but there was no forced entry, nothing stolen, and they were unable to find the knife used in the killing. Police also say with it being Halloween, it's almost impossible to know if Ernestine knew her attacker.
Everybody opens their door on Halloween, but on a night like Halloween, where you may answer the door 100 times based on where you live, it makes it so hard to, apply the normal parameters to this profiling.
Detectives interviewed close friends and family, but never charged anyone in the crime.
To this date, everyone that was thought to be a suspect has been ruled out. Anytime you get an alibi from someone who's a potential suspect in a crime, it's our job to either prove or disprove that alibi. Based on that, the people that we talked to early on were ruled out.
The police have not ruled out a random Halloween night crime, and to complicate things more, a carnival from out of town set up several blocks away from the house just a few days before the murder.
It's a proven fact that, those people are often guilty of crimes committed when they are in a town for 3 or 4 days and then they move on.
Rogers police have very few unsolved murders, and they say they want this closed. They also say they have every bit of evidence from this case in evidence storage. They can't go into detail as to what kind of DNA evidence they have, but say they may have it reviewed again.
When the technology back then isn't up to speed of where we are today, taking a look at the pieces of evidence that we do have and trying to determine, one, what was the analysis done on it in 1995, and two, has that type of analysis improved to the point to where we think we need to resubmit it.
Although DNA may someday help police make an arrest in this case, Captain Miner says there's always one surefire way to catch a killer.
The people that do things like this rarely keep their mouth shut. They're going to tell somebody. Somebody knows something, and we just hope that, nearly 20 years later, someone will have the courage to come to us.
We need to have some definite closure to, who did it. We would like to know why. Well, why couldn't you have spared, it just doesn't make sense to us.
Although they have a lot of pain in talking about how she died, memories of their mother bring Ernestine's children nothing but joy.
Just kind and sweet. And my mom, she just took care of all of us, and she sacrificed everything she had just for us.
She was a very loving person. She had a huge heart, was a fabulous host. She loved having get-togethers. There was always family gatherings.
So gatherings like this, just the type of thing that Ernestine loved. Next Halloween, it'll be 20 years since her murder, and her family says the next time they get together to celebrate her life, they pray they'll also know who ended it.
We have faith in knowing that eventually this individual is going to receive their judgment. It'd be nice to see this person come forward.
Ultimately, God's going to judge whoever did this. But it would be nice for us to be able to see the result and see someone behind bars.
That was a bad day.
That bad day, Sunday, November 9th, 1997. A Rogers teacher trying to get a jump start on her week works in her classroom at Frank Tillery Elementary. A short time later, she walks down the hall and goes into a bathroom in the teacher's lounge.
As she came out is when she was confronted by a male suspect holding a gun.
Forcing her back into the bathroom, the man sexually assaults her. But it wasn't over. He led her down the hall to another room and attacked her again. When he finally left, she called 911.
We have a crime scene that's a school, which is huge, and there's multiple points of entry and exit that all have to be checked. They all have to be processed for prints.
An enormous crime scene, and the fact that a church was using part of the school that Sunday morning for services quickly complicated this case. Police ended up interviewing many of the 250 people from that church and don't believe the attacker was part of the service, mainly because they say someone would have noticed one key thing about the man.
He didn't have shoes on. He left the building wearing only a pair of white tube socks.
He also wore a hat and sunglasses, but the victim was able to describe him as a white man between 5'6" and 5'9", who at the time was between 20 and 30 years old. He had reddish blonde facial hair, a large stomach, and a flat, wide nose. Police also believe he was right-handed, and the victim said he had what seemed to be a nervous tic, tapping his hand on the button of his jeans. There's also something about the attacker that would stand out to someone who knows him intimately.
It's safe to say that the suspect had some very perverse sexual habits, things that he liked that would be considered painful to most people, to the point where he instructed the victim to try and hurt him.
Because of that, police say the suspect may also have scars on his genitals. An unusual attacker, an unusual crime for the city of Rogers, and police there took some unusual steps using DNA from the crime scene to make sure that when the man is caught, no statute of limitations will prevent him from paying.
What we did was prepared an affidavit for an arrest warrant, but instead of using a person's name, Bob Smith, we used a DNA profile.
Since that warrant is waiting, the statute of limitations does not apply.
We wanted to make sure that if and when we did get a name to go with this DNA profile, we'd be able to prosecute it.
Stranger rape is rare in Rogers, and detectives take it seriously. But this case is also personal for police.
The fact that she was married to a Rogers police officer at the time, I think maybe sensationalized it more for us and brought it home. Our community sends our kids to school with this thought that they're in a very, very safe place, and I'm sure that was her mindset, that I'm in school, what can happen?
When the unthinkable does happen, victims need closure. Rogers police say they've put a lot of time and energy into solving this crime, but after 17 years, they need a name to go with DNA to help this victim and those who remember that bad day in 1997.
I know devastating for her personally and her family, and it was hard on our community too. We feel like we owe it to not only the victim, but the community as a whole to solve this crime.
Here at this gas station on 412, truckers come and go, fueling up, maybe grabbing a quick bite, and then fading back into the night down the highway. Most not making much of an impression on the people who live here. But on one summer night in 2001, a chance meeting with one of those drivers changed a local woman's life forever.
Our victim has been dealing with this for years and years and years. It's obviously terrifying for a victim, something like that.
The early morning hours of August 9th, a woman who had come to the gas station to meet someone who never showed up instead meets a trucker who offers her a ride.
She had actually overheard a conversation with him talking to the clerk about his children, and she felt comfortable when he approached her out in the parking lot to go ahead and accept that ride.
Within minutes, friendly conversation turns into terror.
The truck driver had pulled over to the outlet mall there, where he brutally battered and raped her.
After the attack, the man lets the woman go. In 2001, she described him as a 30 to 35-year-old black male, around 5'7". He had a panther tattoo on his upper left arm, gold caps on his front teeth, was wearing a gold wedding ring and a gold necklace with a symbol that looked like a W. He also spoke with a southern accent. His semi, a purple truck with a Tasmanian devil logo on the side.
She felt based on his demeanor and some stuff that was inside the sleeper, that he may have been prior military or had already maybe served some time in the prison system.
Police say not only is it important to find the man to help this victim, but they believe based on the brutality of the attack, this was probably not his first rape and most likely not his last violent crime.
We have not been able to confirm that our suspect has committed any of the homicides. However, the MO does match or does lead us to believe that he possibly could be involved in additional sexual assaults or homicides.
This particular victim is actually probably lucky to be alive.
Yes, very much so.
Police have submitted DNA from the rape to a national criminal database, but so far, no hits. They have continued to work this case since 2001 and say despite the long road, they will not stop.
We're not giving up. We know that the likelihood that he is still out there, he's a predator.
It's very hard to know one of your children disappeared and you don't know what happened to them.
These pictures are all Shirley Klein has left of her youngest son, Johnny Clark.
It's almost like the ground just opened up and swallowed him. I keep thinking before I die, one of these days, maybe I'll know something.
In October of 1993, Johnny's sister reported him missing to Fayetteville police. Detectives quickly discovered that just a few weeks earlier, Johnny's truck had been found burned down to the frame in Crawford County, south of Devil's Den.
There wasn't a body or anything, just a burnt remnants of a truck. The case went cold pretty quick.
At first, Johnny's family didn't think too much when they hadn't seen him. He traveled a lot out of state for work, laying floors at Walmarts across the country. At home, he spent a lot of his time outdoors camping. Despite the fact that he was known as quiet and a bit of a loner, no one thought he had disappeared on his own.
Nothing showed that he wanted to run off. He was just kind of the average hardworking guy.
And that truck burned down to the frame, well, according to Johnny's family, it was his pride and joy. He just had it painted and a new camper shell put on it. And when he disappeared, he left behind a pretty large paycheck as well.
Johnny knew how much it would hurt me. My son did love me, and he knew that it would hurt me if he disappeared.
So if he didn't disappear on his own, what happened to Johnny? Because of the fire that was found to be intentionally set, little evidence was left behind. Police brought out cadaver dogs, and the Crawford County Sheriff's Office searched the entire area with nothing turning up. Johnny did spend time out here in these woods, and although he never got in any trouble with police out here, he definitely knew some people who did.
He was sort of affiliated with more or less an outlaw motorcycle group. He was known to spend time down there, and that was just kind of the drugs and alcohol abuse that was going on at that place was what led us to possibly somebody had tried to do something with him.
Police have looked into the possibility, but say nothing has panned out. Last year, Detective Laine Baker decided to take another route. He asked the family to submit DNA to the Center for Human Identification at the University of North Texas.
Any unclaimed remains or unidentified remains, the information is sent to there, and they compare the mitochondrial DNA from the mother's side to these remains, and still haven't had a match.
There for a long time, I kept thinking everybody they found, maybe that's John, but nothing.
With so little to go on in this case, police and Johnny's family hope someone watching will come forward to help.
As people mature and get older, and we've had some, deathbed confessions that have led to arrest and trying to do anything possible to bring this family some closure.
Oh, please come forward and let us know. It's awful hard when you got a child missing. Come forward. It might matter. Just come forward. I would like to know.
The Illinois Baptist Church family gathering on a Wednesday night for music, food, and fellowship. Built in 1912, this spot was once used as a community gathering place and even a school.
And that many attended school here.
This church has been out there in that community for a long time. They have some founding members, that's just family after family that went to church there.
So for many families in Prairie Grove, this is much more than just a church. It's a spiritual home. And that's what makes what happened here even more painful.
People were just so attached to it, you know, that it was pretty emotional.
It's been there a long time, and it went up real fast.
On April 20th, 2012, around 1 a.m., someone reported a fire at the church.
And they arrived on the scene, and the fire was already through the roof.
Firefighters couldn't even go inside the building because it was too dangerous.
We conducted investigation, the origin cause investigation, put the fire on the outside of the building.
The fire destroyed the oldest part of the church that had turned 100 that year. The flames burned the wood and brick, but something else sparked suspicions about who could have committed this crime.
They made us think it was a cult.
Whoever set the fire spray painted pentagrams on the building. Now, the symbol is often used in cults, but police say they don't think this is the work of an organized group.
In your symbols that's there, cult member, you know, they take pride in their work. When they make a symbol or something, they make it right. These were not really the true symbols. And it was done on the outside, your cults and stuff. They kind of go inside a church.
Most of the graffiti was here on the west side of the church. They actually had to replace all of this siding. Just a few feet away in this corner is where the fire was started, so all of this had to be replaced as well. And something else that's new because of this crime, the church installed a security system so they can keep a watchful eye on church grounds at all times.
This altar, we redid it and cleaned it up.
All of the original church building was destroyed in that fire, but the congregation rebuilt.
It was a unique old building, but it's gone, and we've got this, and we praise the Lord for that.
Although the building may be new and the congregation is looking to the future, it's this old case from the past that still haunts investigators.
It may be a nicer building, but you know, it's not their original building, you know, that Grandpa and Grandma came to. And one of the things we really want to know is just why. You know, why our church? Why a church? You know, why this?
Pastor Eaton says the congregation is stronger after the crime and that he forgives whoever set the fire. But he also says he feels bad for them because they have to carry the burden of what they've done.
I wouldn't hold a grudge against them for it, you know. I mean, it was something that they did, and of course none of us are perfect. They have to live with what they did, and that hurts too. Somebody knows. Somebody knows.